What if you could get an elite super light mouse for less than $100? I actually think that this mouse covers all the check boxes for productivity and gaming. You could buy a ton of mice and see what works for you, but that could get expensive. Me personally, I just look at what the pros use. This is a Sora V2 by Ninjutsu, and my inspiration for this mouse came from me doom scrolling on Tech Talk. So I reached out to Ninjutsu and they sent me this mouse to review, and I'm not sponsored by it, I'm not getting paid for it, and there's nothing for you to buy. I just thought I'd break down why I love this mouse so much. And I'm a firm believer that your experience on your computer is greatly enhanced by the peripherals you use, your mouse, your keyboard, your monitor, even the mouse pad. And I get extremely frustrated when I run into the smallest problem with my computer. It could be connectivity issues of the hardware, some kind of software going down. I hate that. But when I tell you, the moment I plug this mouse in, the experience has been amazing. I'm a huge fan of super light mice. This one only weighs 39 grams and it feels premium. This is extremely important if you play competitive shooters. You need a light mouse to click the heads and have that speed and reaction time. And I feel like that bleeds into other tasks of productivity that I do, such as editing. When I'm using a gaming mouse and it's super light, it's almost impossible for me to go back and switch. I just won't do it. It's made from polycarbonate, and Ninjutsu says it's the lightest mouse without holes in it. And this actually does matter because it's a lot easier to clean, because other mice that have holes in them tend to build up hand chum in them. It's V2 because it's 2 millimeters shorter than the original Sora model that Ninjutsu released, and it's made for a claw grip. And if you didn't know, there's 3 different types of hand positionings. You know, you have your fingertip, you have your claw grip, and you got your palm grip. So next time that you're gaming or using your computer, see which type of grip that you use. Now, it is a smaller mouse and it is made for the claw grip, but I personally use a fingertip grip. But I haven't had any problems using fingertip grip on this mouse. If you're a person who uses a palm grip, this mouse might be too short and the arc on it might be too high for you. Ninjutsu says they have their own technology. It's called Snappy Fire Wireless Technology, and it's integrated in this mouse. This tech claims to have hyper low latency with an 8,000 megahertz polling rate, but you have to buy an 8K receiver additionally outside of the mouse purchase. 8,000 megahertz polling rate essentially means that it's sending a signal from the mouse to the computer 8,000 times a second. And this can have a big impact on your mouse because it'll drain the battery life faster, but this enables better tracking for your mouse. Now, Ninjutsu says this is a plug and play mouse, meaning you don't need any software to get it up and running. And I can attest to you that when you do plug it into your computer, it works right away. The dongle that ships with the mouse has a 1K polling rate, and the 1K polling rate will be just fine for most gamers. Now, there was some negative feedback on the original launch of the mouse, saying that they were advertising an 8K polling rate, but when they were shipping it, it wasn't coming with that dongle. I believe that the calamity was about them releasing the mouse and not having the 8K receiver available, and maybe the marketing was kind of muddy on what they meant. But with all that said, you gotta buy the 8K receiver separately, and the mouse ships with a 1K receiver stock. However, they do have software called Ninja Force and install the latest firmware on the dongle and the mouse. I got it to work. Initially, it wouldn't show the dongle right away. You had to plug it in and kind of leave it in there for a minute or two, and then it'll recognize it, and it was simple enough to update. And then when you wanna update the firmware on the mouse, you gotta plug the mouse directly into the computer, give it a second, and then you can update the firmware. From my experience, I pulled it out the box and was gaming just fine without updating the firmware. I just updated the firmware and everything seems to be working just fine. They claim the battery works for 80 hours, and I don't know if I've only charged it maybe once in about a week and a half. But if you're gonna get the 8K receiver, you can guarantee that battery life's gonna take a dive, because that's a bunch of data transferring back and forth between your computer and the mouse. It uses Omron switches, which have a very light, crisp, soft sound when you're clicking, which I personally love. I'm not a huge fan of the optical switches. They do work great, but they're really loud and kind of annoying to me, especially if I don't want to annoy everybody in the house. And with these switches, I haven't had any problems with double clicking issues. It comes in black, white, and pink. I wish that they had the option that you could have all white, but the color accents don't bother me at all. As soon as I started using it, the first thing I noticed is how awesome it felt. The mouse just feels super buttery, and I just don't know how else to put it. And I've watched people complain about the taper of the mouse, but for me, it just hasn't been a problem. The skates it initially came with were okay, but I switched them out for the X-Ray Pad Obsidian because I use a glass mouse pad made by Wallhack. And when I'm gaming, I definitely feel super accurate. And I've been playing a ton of Marvel Rivals recently, and I've been playing Hela. If you know anything about Hela, she's an extremely aim-focused character, and I've had no problems clicking the head. Matter of fact, I feel like my gameplay got better ever since I switched to this mouse. Now, my hands, they're pretty big, right? And the mouse is pretty small, but It feels good in my hands, and I haven't had any problems between my hand size and the size of the mouse. And when it comes to productivity work, I feel like a god in DaVinci Resolve. I'm able to click around super fast. And as you guys know, I'm just switched from Mac to PC, and everything I do in Windows now with the right peripherals feels god tier. Most competitive gaming mice are usually over $100, and not only that, they can be a challenge to get your hands on because they sell out so fast. The final mouse ULX is $189 retail if you can get it. The Logitech Pro X Superlight 2, that thing's $140 to $160 depending on which version you get and if you get it on a sale. And there's a ton more mice on the market, but what you get for $100 out of this mouse is very competitive. So I think the price to performance, the value is unmatched. Now, who should buy this mouse? And if you're a gamer and you want a value-based mouse that performs extremely well, it's definitely for you, and I can definitely recommend it to you. And if you're somebody who just doesn't like it, I think that just comes down to preference. It's cheaper than the Logitech Pro X Superlight 2. It's cheaper than the Final Mouse, any of them. It's cheaper than the Beast Mini if you can get your hands on it. So it really is beating a lot of these mice that are on the market. For a super light full shell mouse, and you like full shell mice, it's a great recommendation for you. And for productivity, it's not necessary, but I can definitely recommend it for editing. There's nothing about this mouse that I don't like. The scroll wheel feels great, its weight is perfect, it fits great in my hands, the clicks feel satisfying, and the shape is minimal but supportive, and I love the color. I'm gonna leave a link to it in my description. Like I said, I don't get any sales commission or anything. So if I help you guys learn anything in this video, consider subscribing, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.